Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing a breaking contradiction at the very heart of professional women's basketball. Brianna Stewart, co-founder of Unrivaled and board member of the WNBA Players Association, has just signed with Turkish powerhouse Fenerbahce to play overseas. This is the same Brianna Stewart who has been part of the leadership pushing the narrative that players desperately need to avoid overseas competition. The same leader who told fans and media that one of the primary benefits of Unrivaled was keeping players stateside, reducing travel, minimizing wear and tear on their bodies, and eliminating the grueling need to chase international paychecks. Yet here we are, watching her board a plane to Turkey just weeks before WNBA training camps are set to begin on April 19th. This revelation exposes a fundamental credibility crisis within the Players Association at the exact moment they are negotiating a new collective bargaining agreement with league owners. And it raises serious questions about what these players actually want versus what they have been publicly claiming. The timing of this decision could not be more problematic. WNBA owners are proceeding with their scheduled operations without any intention of accommodating the delays or distractions caused by players chasing additional income abroad. Training camps launch on April 19th, the exact same day as the EuroLeague Championship game. If Fenerbahce advances deep into their playoff run, Stewart may miss critical early preparation time with her WNBA team. Under the current collective bargaining agreement, players have until May 1st to report before facing penalties, but the optics of a franchise cornerstone and league face being absent during the foundational days of team building are damaging. This is not some fringe rotation player. This is Brianna Stewart, a multi-time champion, a leader, someone the Players Association holds up as a representation of the league's elite talent. Her absence sends a message that individual financial pursuits supersede team commitments, and it undermines the very arguments the union has been making about player welfare and workload management. For months, the narrative from the WNBA Players Association has been consistent and emotionally compelling. Players have publicly stated that the grind of playing overseas is unsustainable. They have described the physical toll of competing year-round, the mental exhaustion of constant travel across continents, and the injury risks that come from never allowing their bodies adequate recovery time. Unrivaled was marketed as the solution to this problem, a domestic 3-on-3 league that would allow elite players to earn substantial income without leaving the country, without the brutal international schedule, and without the dangers that come from playing in foreign leagues with different medical standards and competitive intensities. Brianna Stewart herself was instrumental in creating this league. She was one of its founding voices, one of its primary architects. The entire premise was built on the idea that players needed an alternative to overseas basketball. And now, despite having just competed in Unrivaled and earned significant income from that venture, Stewart is heading to Turkey anyway. This decision reveals a deeper truth about the negotiations currently taking place between the Players Association and team owners. The union has been leveraging player welfare as a bargaining chip, arguing for reduced game counts, extended rest periods, and changes to prioritization rules that would allow more flexibility for international play. But if the core issue was truly about health and sustainability, then why is one of the union's most prominent leaders voluntarily adding more games to her schedule? Why is she choosing to compete in a high-stakes European playoff race when she could be resting, recovering, and preparing for the upcoming WNBA season? The answer is obvious. This has never been solely about workload or wellness. It has always been about maximizing income streams while simultaneously demanding that the WNBA structure itself around those pursuits. The players want the freedom to earn international money, the security of guaranteed WNBA contracts, the benefits of domestic leagues like Unrivaled, and the leverage to negotiate as if they are being exploited, all at the same time. WNBA owners are not blind to this contradiction, and they are not playing along. According to credible league sources, the May 1st reporting deadline will remain firmly in place for this season, regardless of what changes might eventually be negotiated into a new collective bargaining agreement. Training camps will begin as scheduled on April 19th. The expansion drafts for Portland and Toronto must be executed. The collegiate draft must take place. Free agency must be completed. The league has 81 days until the season tips off, and there is zero indication that ownership is willing to delay operations to accommodate players who are choosing to extend their international commitments. This is a calculated stand by the league's financial stakeholders, and it reflects a growing frustration with the mixed messages coming from the Players Association. Owners have invested heavily in this league. They have absorbed years of financial losses. They have expanded the league with new franchises. They have increased salaries and improved travel conditions. And yet, the union continues to operate as if the league is exploiting them while simultaneously chasing every available dollar in every available market. The credibility gap is widening. Breanna Stewart is not the only high-profile player making decisions that contradict the union's public talking points. Gabby Williams has repeatedly chosen to play overseas, despite dealing with chronic ankle issues and other injuries that have plagued her WNBA performance. Other star players are exploring opportunities with new international ventures, like Project B, a league that promises even more money and even more games. These are not players being forced into international competition out of financial desperation. These are millionaires choosing to add more basketball to their schedules because they want more income, which is their right. But it becomes a problem when that same group of players turns around and demands that the WNBA accommodate their international pursuits by reducing the domestic schedule, loosening prioritization rules, and guaranteeing contracts regardless of availability. The inconsistency is glaring, and it is eroding trust between the union and the league's ownership. Consider the injuries that plagued the last WNBA season. Breanna Stewart herself played through the playoffs on one leg, scoring 30 points in an elimination game while clearly compromised physically. Sabrina Ionescu was dealing with injuries. Jonquel Jones was limited. Multiple stars across the league were unable to perform at full capacity because their bodies had been worn down by the relentless year-round grind. And yet, instead of taking the offseason to rest and recover, many of these same players participated in Unrivaled, and some are now heading overseas for additional competition. If the injuries were truly the result of an overbearing schedule imposed by the WNBA, then why are players voluntarily adding more games? If the league is genuinely concerned about player health, then why are union leaders making decisions that directly increase injury risk right before training camp? The answer lies in the fundamental tension between player empowerment and league sustainability. The WNBA Players Association wants the autonomy to control their own careers, maximize their earning potential, and dictate the terms of their employment. That is understandable. But they also want the league to provide guaranteed financial security, long-term stability, and accommodations that allow them to pursue outside opportunities without consequence. That is not sustainable. Every professional sports league operates on a balance between player freedom and organizational structure. The WNBA is no different. Owners cannot build a competitive, marketable, and financially viable product if their star players are constantly unavailable, perpetually injured, or prioritizing other leagues. The Players Association seems to believe they can have it both ways, but the owners are sending a clear signal that they will not allow the league to be treated as a secondary option. Anonymous players have begun speaking out. Some have criticized the union leadership for being greedy. Others have pointed out conflicts of interest, noting that the same players negotiating on behalf of the union are also the ones with the most lucrative outside deals, and the least to lose if the WNBA season is delayed or disrupted. Sophie Cunningham publicly called out these conflicts, suggesting that the interests of rank-and-file players are not being adequately represented. This internal division is significant. It suggests that the union is not as unified as it appears, and that the demands being made at the bargaining table may not reflect the priorities of the entire membership. If mid-tier and role players feel that their leadership is pursuing an agenda that benefits only the stars, then the union's negotiating position becomes weaker, and the likelihood of a prolonged standoff increases. The owners are proceeding as planned. They are not postponing the expansion drafts. They are not delaying the collegiate draft. They are not pushing back training camp. They are not waiting for players to return from overseas. The message is clear. The WNBA will operate on its own schedule, and players who choose to prioritize other commitments do so at their own risk. This is a power play, and it reflects a broader shift in the league's approach to labor negotiations. For years, the WNBA was in survival mode, willing to accommodate almost anything to keep the league afloat. But the league has grown. Viewership is up, sponsorship deals are increasing, new franchises are being added. The financial picture is improving. Owners no longer feel the need to bend over backward for a players' association that seems unwilling to acknowledge the league's progress or commit to its long-term success. Breanna Stewart's decision to sign with Fenerbahce is not illegal. It does not violate the current collective bargaining agreement. She will likely return in time to meet the May 1st reporting deadline, and she will not face any formal penalties. But the decision is symbolically damaging. It undermines the narrative that players are overburdened and undercompensated. It exposes the contradictions in the union's bargaining position, and it gives ownership ammunition to resist demands for reduced schedules and looser prioritization rules. If players are willing to add international games to their schedules, even when they do not financially need to, then why should the league reduce its own game count or accommodate those outside commitments? The broader implications of this situation extend beyond a single player or a single season. The WNBA is at a crossroads. The league is negotiating a new collective bargaining agreement that will define its structure, its economics, and its competitive balance for years to come. The Players Association is pushing for significant changes, including higher salaries, better benefits, more guaranteed money, and greater flexibility to pursue outside opportunities. Owners are willing to invest more, but they want commitments in return. They want players who are available, healthy, and dedicated to building the league. They want a partnership, not a hostage situation. And right now, the union's actions suggest that partnership is not the priority. The clock is ticking. Adam Silver, commissioner of the NBA and a key figure in the WNBA's governance structure, has publicly stated that the league is in the 11th hour of negotiations. The window for reaching an agreement without disrupting the season is closing rapidly. If a deal is not finalized soon, the season could be delayed. The expansion process could be derailed, free agency could be thrown into chaos, and all of that would harm the league's momentum at a time when growth is finally accelerating. The Players Association seems willing to risk that disruption in pursuit of their demands, but it is unclear whether the rank-and-file membership fully understands the potential consequences. A delayed or canceled season would not just hurt owners, it would hurt players, especially those who do not have lucrative endorsement deals or international contracts to fall back on. What we are witnessing is a high-stakes game of brinkmanship, and Breanna Stewart's overseas signing is a revealing move in that game. It shows that the union's leadership is more interested in maximizing individual earnings than in presenting a unified, credible front in negotiations. It shows that the concerns about player health and workload are selective and situational. And it shows that the WNBA owners are not going to be bullied into making concessions that undermine the league's long-term viability. The next few weeks will determine whether a deal can be reached or whether the league is headed for a prolonged labor dispute that could set back years of progress. Either way, the mask has been pulled back, and the contradictions at the heart of the Players Association's position are now impossible to ignore.